So I'm selling this steering parts kit on eBay currently, soon to be on my website, and they fit anything from 1955 up to 1959 before they went to the cast iron front axle. And I'm also making these parts. Now, I had them for sale for a while and I took them off because I wanted to address the issue of getting them to work right for you. If you buy one of these, I want you to be satisfied. Now, the problem is, if you put one of these new parts on an old shaft, there's still going to be some slop in there because the hole in the shaft is going to be worn. So you can't just put the new part with the new pin of the original size into your worn out shaft. So the purpose of this video is to show you how to deal with that. Now, you can either make a new shaft that would have the right size hole in it, which probably is not going to happen very often. Your only other opportunity to fix this situation is to go with an oversized roll pin. So I only have a few options as far as selling you a good part. And one option is to sell you a part with an original size hole, and you would drill through both parts to get them to the proper size of an oversized pin, and that gives you a nice fit. Now, another option is for me to go ahead and make this part with an oversized hole, and then you would only have to drill the shaft to get it to fit right. So in this video, I'm going to show both ways of doing that so that you can make your choice. The problem with drilling through both parts is that you could possibly make the hole egg-shaped if you don't get your drill straight, and that would ruin this new part. So it might be more advantageous to buy the part that I sell with the oversized hole and then simply enlarge the hole that's in your shaft. Now, you still have an opportunity to mess that up, and I'm going to show you how I do it. We're going to see how it turns out. So here I have two different parts. One of them is already oversized, which is a 7/32 hole. And the other one is the original size, which is a 3/16 hole. So this is a shaft out of a 58 or 59 style tractor. And you can see that the 3/16 drill bit has quite a bit of slop in there where the hole is worn out. So if you was to put this together with an original size pin, here I'm using a dowel pin just for demonstration. It's not a roll pin, but that is the proper size of the drilled hole. And you can see that there's quite a bit of movement there. And that's because this hole that's in this shaft has the wear in it. So if you was to buy one of these with an oversized hole, then you need to drill the hole in your shaft out to a 7/32 size. It's probably a lot harder to drill it out when it's in your frame, because it would be pretty hard to get the drill to go straight and everything working right for you and not make the hole egg-shaped. So that's why I have the shaft out, and I have it positioned in a vise that's going to hold it nicely. And I have rotated the shaft and eyeballed this thing to where the hole is vertical. So that's going to allow me to eyeball the drill vertical, and I should be able to follow that hole. Make sure you eyeball it from both sides so that you're going straight. problem with doing it this way is that sometimes if you don't get that hole straight, you might not go all the way through. Now I don't really want to run the drill through here with both parts on there, because you're merely enlarging the size of the hole, and that would pretty much force it to be egg-shaped one direction or the other. Since we're using a spring pin or a split roll pin, it should be able to conform to the hole as long as we're reasonably close. Now the hole's pretty tight, which is what you want. And the reason you can't get this drill bit through both pieces is because there's some slight hole misalignment. So here I have a new pin, a new 7/32 pin. Now 7/32 is 219 thousandths of an inch. But these pins, being a spring pin, or a split pin, or a roll pin, is actually 230 thousandths. And that's made that way so it'll compress down into the hole. So you want to start your pin on a hard surface. And since most of the forces on this is rotationally, you don't want to put the split where it would be seeing rotational force. You want it facing this way or facing the other way, so that when it rotates, it's not going to wear where that slot is. Now these chamfers go towards the frame. So when you have this in the frame, that has to be oriented that way. And I'm going to start this on a hard surface. Make sure you don't go too far, or you won't get your part on there. I'm going to move this back in the vise so I have a more solid hit. Alright, that's on there nice and tight. It's tight in all directions. Can't move it at all. So this method is probably easier than drilling through both parts, although drilling through both parts would ensure that your hole is aligned properly through both parts. Remember, I showed you a little bit of misalignment here, but being a spring pin, it can accommodate for some slight misalignment. Now that's one method. I'm going to show the other method where you have to drill through both parts, and you start with the new part that has a hole of the original size, and you drill through both parts. So the reason I'm showing this is to give you a choice. You can either buy the part from me that has the original size hole and drill through both pieces, or you can buy the part that has the oversized hole and just drill through the shaft, which is probably easier. When you're drilling through both parts, there's just more ways that you can mess it up. I'm going to show both ways so you can make that choice. So this is a different shaft here, and this is a new part with an original size hole. Well, I'm going to go ahead and drive this new pin in there, and I'm going to drive it most of the way through so that it's halfway through the shaft, and then I'm going to drill halfway through and then remove the pin and drill the other half. So I'm going to go ahead and put this pin in there. I've got this shaft held tightly in the vise. Now you can start your pin on a hard surface. Don't go very far in or you won't be able to get it on the shaft. Now you can see how much movement is there, even though this is a new part with a nice 3/4 inch reamed hole. And the pin has a tight grip on this outer part, but not on the shaft. You want to watch your depth and try to not go very much farther than halfway. Just a little bit more. I want to go slightly past halfway. What I'm going to do is drill this with a 7/32 drill. And I'm going to try to hold this part in the center of its movement when I get down there, because you're trying to follow the original hole. Now I'm doing this by hand instead of on the machine because not everybody has a milling machine to do this with. Now I was looking down in there, so I was waiting for it to break through the outside of this first piece. And once you feel it break through there, you can kind of line up this piece and the drill bit will find the hole in the shaft. Now you got to eyeball this thing straight in both directions when you're trying to do it. And I'm going to go down halfway through the shaft and I'll be able to feel it stop when I get to the end of that pin, which remember is about halfway through the shaft. Okay, so it quit making chips. You can feel it quit going down. Your roll pin is hard, so you don't really want to try to drill onto the roll pin for very long. So now I'm going to remove the roll pin. When we put the drill in there, the drill's going to keep that part in location while you finish the hole. You still need to try to pay attention to keeping the drill straight. Now I'm through the shaft. This is why it caught there. It's going to start going out the other side of the outer part. Now you notice I'm not using a reamer because not everybody has a reamer. So I just used a drill bit. It shouldn't be a problem because the hole spec for a roll pin allows you to be a little bit oversized. So see, this pin won't start into that side. Won't start into that side. And it looks like it's going to be a tight fit all the way through. So I'm not going to drive this through here now. I need to put it back into the frame, and then we'll put it together with this new part and see how that works. So I have my frame up on blocks here, laying on its side, so that I can drive that pin in nicely and it's supported well. And remember that the chamfers go towards the frame, because that's clearance for your steering arm to come across there when you make a turn. So I'm going to start the pin in the outside piece first again. Make sure you put the split in your split pin in the direction which does not see most of the force. That'll help it wear the longest. Don't go too far or you won't be able to get the thing onto the shaft without pushing it back out a little bit. And it looks like I went just barely a little bit too far. You saw how that was hard to get on there. Now, you can tell once it gets started because it'll grab a hold of the shaft for you. Now this pin that I'm using is about the same width as this block. So we're going to take it flush. So now I really don't have any slop going rotationally. And in fact, it's pretty tight, even wobbling this way. So the pin is doing a nice job of holding it in position there. And that worked out pretty well. The most critical part is drilling that hole and making sure that you can stay on location with it. So let's put some more steering parts on here and see how it looks. This really only goes one way because it won't fit if you get it on wrong. And then here you can see the purpose for those chamfers on the corners of the block and why they have to be on top. I hear a little squeak there because everything's dry on this unit. I've cleaned it. When you put yours together, you want to put a little grease on everything. So remember, if you only want to buy that one part there, it is made like the original, direct replacement. So it will work with all your original parts. Alright, that's it.